Right now, the National Weather Desk, let it rain. Central Texas gets some much-needed rain as they wait for a long overdue cold front.
Behind the second cold front, we drop another 10 degrees with highs Saturday, only expected to be in the 70s.
Hurricane hunters fly into the eye of Philippe as the tropical storm heads for Bermuda and New England. Water war, how New Orleans is working to protect its drinking water from a salt water invasion.
The Army Corps of Engineers is urgently racing against time and salt with a couple different tools.
Fire danger, a traditionally dry month, plus the drought raises fire risks in Alabama.
We've actually, over the last 3 months, have responded to at least 17 grass or brush fires.
Forecasting fall foliage. How do experts do it? Plus the perfect weather to grow the perfect pumpkin.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Heavy rain is finally falling in Central Texas, a welcome sight following a summer filled with triple-digit. First real cold front also brought some severe thunderstorms and lightning. The rain, though, will fade this afternoon, but cooler temperatures are on the way. And we say cooler, we're talking about the low 80s. That's what they will feel. The storms also forced the postponement of the FC Dallas and Colorado Rapids soccer match. We've learned 2 fans were injured while waiting for that match to start. They were taken to the hospital and should be okay. There's also a report on social media the strong winds blew down some signs inside of that stadium as well. The rain is just the start for Texas. Over the coming days, it's finally going to start feeling like fall as a double cold front moves through the region. Meteorologist Chicago Windler explains.
The much anticipated change from summer to fall is finally upon us, courtesy of 2 cold fronts, back-to-back fronts. The first one Thursday morning stretching from east of Chicago to Austin, Texas. The second cold front will bring a reinforcing shot of even colder air pulling out of the northern United States and into the Lone Star State by Friday night into Saturday. For perspective, temperatures soared to a record 98 in Austin at Camp Mabry. Austin's airport hit 100, the latest ever triple-digit day. That was on Wednesday. Behind the first front, we drop about 15 degrees into the 80s. Behind the second cold front, we drop another 10 degrees with highs Saturday, only expected to be in the 70s. As for lows, in the 50s, the coolest air since spring. And boy, are we ready. In Austin, Texas, I'm meteorologist Chicago Windler for the National Weather Desk.
Tropical storm Philippe. This morning, the storm had maximum sustained winds of 45 miles an hour. It is expected to bring tropical storm conditions to Bermuda beginning tonight. A tropical storm warning is already posted for the island. Heavy rain and flash flooding both expected. Philippe then continues north. It is expected to be post-tropical cyclone when it moves over eastern New England and Canada. Strong winds and heavy rain are possible for those areas as well. Earlier this week, hurricane hunters from the Air Force Reserve flew into Philippe, and let's just say, look at this, it was electric. This video was taken as the storm was passing through Antigua and Barbuda and the Caribbean. You can see they saw a spectacular lightning show. The hurricane hunter team remains on standby to monitor hurricanes to the end of the season, which is November 30th. Typhoon Koinu made landfall on Taiwan's southern tip on Thursday morning, bringing heavy rain and wind with it. The storm produced one of the strongest wind gusts ever recorded, 212.9 miles per hour, destroying several wind speed measuring devices, and waves reported as high as 22 feet. Officials say nearly 200 people have been hurt, and one person sadly actually was killed. No direct landfall is expected for southern China, though. Search and rescue operations are underway in northeast India following deadly flash flooding on Wednesday. At least 14 people have died and more than 100 are missing. Government officials say at least 11 bridges were completely washed away, making rescue efforts even more difficult in remote areas. So far, more than 2,000 people have been evacuated. And now to Canada, where the smoke from the wildfires is still impacting air quality in portions of the eastern U.S. Meteorologist Michael Inrenberg has a closer look at when the skies will clear.
Some isolated pockets of moderate smoke there in the yellow and red across parts of the Carolinas, Georgia, and other parts of the southeast. And then the smoke will continue to diminish somewhat and shrink as we move on into your Friday. So the air quality forecast, most stations will be good on Thursday. A few areas of moderate air quality in central Florida, and especially across parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama.
You know, in South Louisiana, folks are pretty familiar with salt water that moves at the speed of a hurricane, but now they must also worry about salt water that creeps steady and invisible towards the crops, machines, and drinking water systems of almost 1 million people. This all goes back to how drought is impacting the Mississippi River. Bill Weir shows us some of the steps being taken to protect the drinking supply.
After a second straight year of extraordinary drought, the not-so-mighty Mississippi is too weak to hold back the Gulf of Mexico. So the heavier salt water is running downhill towards New Orleans in the shape of a wedge, with the toe about 15 miles in front of the kind of inundation that could threaten the health of the vulnerable and destroy everything from lead pipes to appliances. So the Army Corps of Engineers is urgently racing against time and salt with a couple different tools. This is the first of what will be many barges that can bring about 500,000 gallons of fresh water at a time. Downstream, they use it to dilute the brackish stuff as it goes into a small water plant here in Plaquemine Parish. The Corps says they can move 36 million gallons a day, but even that wouldn't be enough to save the New Orleans water supply. So they're already talking about maybe building pipelines to prop up that water system. In the meantime, the Corps is also building a big sill, like an underwater speed bump, to try to slow the wedge as it moves inland. But these are all temporary fixes. And the leader of this parish says if this is the new normal, that means parts of Louisiana will need the same kind of desalination that they use in Israel and other desert communities. This is land that's familiar with hurricanes and flooding, not droughts and wildfires.
Right.
How do you reconcile these
Well,
things?
because like you say, when you look this way and you look that way, you're looking at water. We're in the middle of water, but we're in the middle of the wrong kind of water, and that's why we're needing these kind of machines.
There is hope El Nino will bring rare October rain, but this battle could last months, with the latest forecast putting the wedge close to New Orleans in the next 3 weeks.
October is typically the driest month of the year in Alabama, and right now the state is even drier than normal, making the threat of fires very real. Valerie Bell reports from West Alabama, where fire danger is growing each day.
Up here is coal country.
Unfortunately, the less inhabited, that's what usually burns. Depending on the amount of fuel, you know, in our area, we cover 137 square miles, mostly pine thicket. It moves fast.
When it's dry like this, there's not a lot of moisture in the grass, making it easier to catch fire. So a little bit of wind could push that small grass fire and quickly take over an entire field like this one. The Antioch Volunteer Fire Department knows all about it.
You know, in 2016, we had a massive woods fire up here, and I think we had 15 or 16 fire departments from the area that all responded for structural protection.
When a wildfire breaks out, a tanker like this one comes in handy.
A house fire, you're putting 100 gallons a minute out of a hose. You know, on a woods fire, you're putting out approximately 10 to 15 gallons per minute. So that truck could potentially last an hour and a half on a woods fire.
Starting Friday and until further notice, permits for outdoor burning will no longer be issued.
Burn permits are required for bonfires, agricultural burning, and silvicultural burning. You can burn without a burn permit when you are cooking, recreational fires, or contained fires used for construction.
But just because you can burn doesn't mean you should.
We've actually, over the last 3 months, have responded to at least 17 grass or brush fires.
Well, 2023 is on track to be the hottest year in history. That's according to new data from the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service. As we reported yesterday, last month was the hottest September ever. June, July, and August were also the hottest on record. That made the summer of 2023 the warmest in recorded history. Ocean temperatures also broke records last month, with the second highest temperatures on record for any month. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll find out how the weather impacts changing leaf colors and what it takes to grow that perfect pumpkin.
meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Most of the Northeast will top out in the 70s and low 80s once again today. Another mild one is on tap. The exception, eastern parts of New England, where the fog and the low clouds should keep temperatures down significantly there, especially over eastern parts of Maine. There's the low clouds and fog. That should burn off for most areas during the course of the day. Notice a lot of sunshine here. Going into Friday, we're going to reintroduce some wet weather first in New York, and it looks like wet weather will plague the region area-wide on Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, temperatures generally in the 60s to start your day by lunchtime. We're in the 70s, and another day spent way above average, probably close to 80 degrees during the afternoon. But this is living on borrowed time. The warmth and the fairly dry conditions giving way to rain by the end of the week with our next weather maker, and eventually some much cooler temperatures over the weekend. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Nashville, 78 degrees, 79 in Tupelo. Looking at some clouds and some storms moving through that area. Looks like Raleigh, 81 degrees, 85 Macon, 91 in Tampa. Sun and clouds to start the day off, as you can see along the I-95 corridor from Raleigh to Atlanta. Charlotte looking pretty good, but it looks like these storms will move along that front, bringing in some clouds and some rain as we get into the later afternoon and evening across parts of the south.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Sunrise with nature's hazy and leafy filters as seen along this 2-lane road in southwest Virginia. This recent scene not as serene but powerful while storming through Westbrook, Texas earlier this week. And here's a way to enjoy Lake Tahoe up close without getting into the chilly waters. Paddleboarding, simply beautiful.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
We are a few days into October and working our way through the second month of meteorological fall, and the leaves in Iowa are already starting to show their color. Meteorologist Garrett Hyde has a closer look at the state's fall foliage.
Earlier this season, we talked about how the drought could cut short the time we get to see some of those fall colors or make them a little less vibrant. At the time, it was a little too early to tell, but now that the second Iowa DNR fall report is out, I followed up with District Forester Mark Fatosh to find out what might affect some of those fall colors going forward.
Some of that vibrancy could depend on the weather in the next couple of weeks too. If we have those sunny days and cool nights, I don't know if the nights are going to be cool enough to really get some of that vibrant color. But yeah, with the drought, we could get some of those colors kind of washed out and not really as vibrant. But, you know, I always tell people you just have to wait and see.
And wait and see. It's about all we can do. But if you're planning a trip around Iowa to see some colors, the Iowa DNR does update its reports every Monday. This is a look at the latest update. Northeast Iowa is the closest right now to its peak. Some of the state does seem to be on time. But otherwise, Mark tells me the best way to really know what's going on is check with those local sources, like park rangers or someone who actually lives in the area might be headed out to. Overall, with the dry conditions and the signs of some of the tree stress, Mark also wanted to remind those who have those younger trees, make sure you're watering them regularly, especially here over the next couple of weeks. That'll give them the best chance at survival and the best chance at some future fall colors.
Forecasting fall foliage can be tricky, and many times what we see on fall foliage maps can be outdated. A recent meteorology graduate of UNC Asheville has been working on a computer model that is revolutionizing the science of forecasting these vibrant colors. Emily Gracie sat down with him to find out how he created this model and what makes it so different.
I've got a passion for fall foliage, so I decided to create a fall foliage map using my meteorology skills that I acquired in undergrad.
Yeah, I can imagine it's got to be hard to gather data on fall foliage, because it's not like a weather station where you're just getting a, past peak reading that you can input. So where does your data come from?
Yeah, so I actually use RTMA, kind of high resolution meteorological data. So this is 2.5 kilometer resolution across the United States that analyzes variables such as temperature and precipitation. There's variables, how long a day is, daylight hours really plays into fall foliage color and timing. So all of those variables are considered in this statistical model that I run.
Tell me about the website, because there's more than just the fall foliage forecast on there, correct?
We do try to help people through our blog and also through a fall foliage archive. These are just different kind of inputs that people can use to analyze, where do I need to be planning my fall trip and when do I need to be going.
Comparing years past to this year, are you noticing anything different this year? I know it's early in the season, but have you noticed any differences?
So I would say this year has been kind of categorized, especially in the Midwest, by that drought conditions. We've seen really early color in the Midwest, and now we're seeing some delayed color in the Midwest as we get asynchronous peaks in fall foliage amongst different types of trees. And then the Northeast is actually performing better than expected. It was a bit of a surprise going into October. We expected it to be delayed because of how wet this summer was.
Are there any spots across the country that are kind of hidden gems?
So Utah is really standing out this year. Their fall foliage is incredible. The maples, it's called the big tooth maples, they started peaking in early to mid-September. And now that peak is starting to ebb a little bit, the aspen are taking over, and it's just gorgeous in the mountains outside of Salt Lake City.
And Evan also has some great tips for getting good pictures and avoiding crowds as you explore fall foliage. You can find that in a longer version of this interview on YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk. We also have the link to his website there as well. Well, many people will be hitting the road to see the changing leaves. Officials in North Carolina are expecting more motorcycles this year at popular leaf peeping destinations. Rex Hodge reports motorcycle safety experts are urging caution on scenic roads.
Obviously, our roads are curvy, up and down hills.
Waynesville police officer Tyler Howell says that requires focus and careful driving, especially this time of year.
Colors are going to be changing. There's a lot of traffic comes to the Smoky Mountains. With all of that traffic and added traffic, we don't want speed to be a factor in anybody getting hurt.
But Howell says it was precisely speed, around 100 miles per hour, and reckless driving that led to 2 fatal motorcycle accidents last week along Highway 74.
It appears that both were attempting to pass cars at a high rate of speed.
2 incidents prompting reminders about motorcycle safety and a chance for the police department to reinforce its Bike Safe initiative, having obtained 2 Harleys recently, not just for patrol purposes, but education.
We actually have a Bike Safe certified officer here who are teaching classes that the Waynesville Police Department will host in the near future.
Safety is a primary focus.
We just ask everybody to maintain their distance, maintain their speed.
Give us a little room. Yeah.
Buford Koch rides the parkway with friends and family. Safety, front and center.
Of course, we wear our helmet and try to stay within the speed limit.
With twists and turns in the mountains and tempting scenery all around, Koch says on a bike, you've got to be aware of your surroundings.
You got to anticipate every turn that something's coming at you. You've got to watch for animals, anything on the roadway.
And he says keeping an eye on drivers of four-wheeled vehicles.
They're not as aware of their surroundings as maybe we might be.
Howell adds reflective clothes and markings and lights boost visibility. And he says brake and tire pressure maintenance are vital too. The experts say check the forecast as well. Up here along the Blue Ridge Parkway, for example, overnight lows this weekend will be approaching the freezing mark.
It's the heart of apple picking season at orchards across Maine, but this year is a little different. Johnny Maffey takes us to find out why.
7 generations of Sweetsers have been running this orchard for 211 years in Cumberland. But this season, you need to be ready to take a bigger bite.
Greg, why are these apples so big this year?
You know, we're just growing apples bigger than pumpkins this year. I think we had a freeze on May 19th, knocked off some of the blossoms for sure. So the apples that were left, especially on this Cortland tree, the energy all went into the fewer apples that were on the tree. So kind of an interesting byproduct of that cold night in May.
The staff calls them Hulk apples. The rain earlier in the summer impacted irrigation too. The system was only needed in May.
Tested it, ran it for 2 days, shut it off, and haven't turned it on all summer, which is super unusual.
The 70 different varieties of apples didn't mind the wet weather.
And you also have some other treats and stuff too, right?
Oh yeah, one of our newest popular treats are cider donuts. You know, every orchard is talking about donuts.
I had dessert first.
And we're gonna get a good crunch out of that too.
Enjoy.
I'll take all of these.
I'll take all of these.
Okay.
That looks good. And time for a short break, but first let's take flight over California's Sequoia National Park.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. A huge area of low pressure spinning down some showers across the Great Lakes. Cold front blasting across the Ohio Valley. And that's finally going to be leaving all of us with cooler temperatures as we head into the next few days here. Look at this. Tomorrow, most of us are in the 50s across the Midwest. A little warmer in the Ohio Valley, but your temperatures will fall into the 50s as well as we head into Saturday. A lot of sunshine across the plains, but still some intermittent rain showers across the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. It is a cool morning all the way up from Amarillo to Oklahoma into the 50s and 60s there, 70s to the south with some showers and some thunderstorms as a cold front begins to push on down to the south. Heavier rain will move off the coast today. We'll watch more of that as it slides in. Temperatures, well, they'll warm up into the 80s and some 70s. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and good Thursday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Heat and wind starting to build out west. Look at the temps approaching 90 in San Diego and San Francisco. Santa Ana's in Southern California, bringing those temperature readings all the way up. And they're called Diablo winds out of the Bay Area there from Mount Diablo to the east of San Francisco. So that's where the wind and the heat is coming from. Big ridge of high pressure closing in on the northwest for higher temperatures in Seattle and Portland as well. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, it's pumpkin picking season in central New York, and this year the pumpkins are bigger than years past. Let's turn to meteorologist Violet Skyboard to find out what it takes to grow the perfect pumpkin.
Well, first let's talk about how to grow a pumpkin. Seeds are planted in late May or June, and then they need about 4 months for the pumpkins to grow, ready to pick by late September or during the month of October, depending on the variety of the seeds. Plus, temperatures during this time period need to be between the range of 50 degrees to 95 at the highest. Luckily, during this past summer, we did not reach above 95 degrees. However, we did fall below 50 degrees about 9 days, most of which were over the past few weeks. But a lot of the pumpkins are starting to be harvested around this time. Plus, we also need about 1 inch of rainfall each week during the summer months. During the fall, you want drier weather just so that the pumpkins don't get moldy, rot, or get any diseases.
And if you're looking for more great weather content, check us out on social media. You can find us on all of your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll learn about the monarch butterfly's southern migration. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Thursday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.